Hello there, and thank you. Welcome to Victor's podcast, the correct place to learn about culture and literature. Well, as you guys have listened this week, we have been talking about different famous writers. And today there's not going to be an exception. The writer that we are going to speak about today, it's T.S. Eliot. He was a 20th century poet who is well known for his work, The Waste Land. Have you ever read that poem? It's a very, very interesting poem. But let's learn first about his early life. Well, T.S. Eliot, he was born on September 26 in 1888. He studied at the Smith Academy and also at the Milton Academy in Massachusetts. But in 1906, he graduated Harvard University with a bachelor's degree. He served or worked as a philosophy assistant in Harvard after he graduated. Then he went to live in France, and then he went there to study philosophy. Due to the World War I, he was unable to take his final oral exam for his PhD. And let's learn a little bit more about him. He got married with Vivian Hyde Wood in London, and then he stayed working there as a school teacher. After that, he started working as a bank clerk, and he worked until 1925 on this position. So imagine, one of the most famous writers was just a bank teller. Imagine that. Who would have known? Then Eliot began a really good friendship with another poet, an American poet, and his name was Ezra Pound, and he helped him to publish some of his work. The love song of J. Alfred Prufrock was published on 1915, and then in 1919, Eliot published other poems, which contained the poem Gerontion. The poem was a blank verse, it was an interior monologue, and it was a unique poem of the time. In 1922, Eliot taught the publication of The Waste Land, the famous poem. This was a colossal and complex examination of post-war disillusionment. At the time he wrote the poem, he was having some problems with his wife. They both were experiencing nervous disorders. So, yeah, not everything is so good in life, you know. You have good things and then you have bad things. And he was having a situation there with his marriage. Well, The Waste Land is considered the most influential poetic work of the 20th century. The same year The Waste Land was published, he founded the journal called Criterion. He was the editor of this journal from 1922 to 1939. Between this period, in 1930, he wrote The Ash Wednesday. In 1943, another good poem was Four Quartets. He published that poem. He had a difficult situation in 1947 because his wife Vivian died. But a year later, he was really happy with something that happened to him since he won the Nobel Prize in Literature. So this helped him a little bit to cope with his pain of having lost his wife. He continued to write many other poems, and in January of 1957, he married Valerie Fletcher, who became his literary executor. Unfortunately, T.S. Eliot died on January 4th, 1965, but what an amazing career he had. There's a lot of poems he wrote, among the ones that we have mentioned already in this podcast. Even after his death, in 1981, his wife Valerie approved Andrew Lloyd Webber adaptation of Eliot's light verse from Old Possum's book of Practical Cats, which originally was published in 1939, and she approved it to become the musical Cats in 1981. So even after his death, he had a lot of influence in literature. He had a big impact in modern literature. So it was an amazing author, the one we learned about today. We are sure that you guys would like to listen more about other poets and other writers, and you are in the correct place. Well, thank you so much for listening to Victor's podcast. the correct place to learn about culture and literature. Yes. Have a great afternoon, guys. See you guys next time.